This is an encore presentation of the Peter Silverman Show on News Talk 1010 CFRB.
Welcome to the Silverman Show, and as usual, for some reason it's raining, but there you go. A little springtime, summertime rain never hurt anybody. We're talking about condos, the pitfalls, the problems you have, boards of directors, the machinations, and the politics of it all. And with me is Maria Dimakas, a splendid lawyer from Fine and Duo, and this is their ballpark. Maria, welcome back again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We were talking in there about condominiums, and this is the city of condominiums. I believe Toronto has more condominiums per capita than anywhere else.
That's right? That's right. That's correct.
People are pouring into them, and people are getting decent prices for them. You were saying that one of the problems with condominiums is the legal framework. Is that right?
It is, yeah. The condominium world is governed by the Condominium Act as one of its primary documents. And from then you also have your declaration, your bylaws, and your rules. There's a framework for condominiums. There's a vacuum in some cases because it doesn't deal with certain practical realities of condos because people are involved in condos and people's lives are involved in condos. And the one thing I tell boards when they're communicating with their owners and they're having problems with their ownership or owners have certain concerns that they themselves want to bring to the attention of the board is read your documents, understand the framework of your own condo, understand what you can and cannot do, both as a board, both as an owner, and you will find a middle ground. You'll find a way to have constructive solutions to problems that may not be readily resolved in your own documents where there is that vacuum created.
Okay, give me an example of where the framework fails or doesn't cover everything off.
Where it doesn't cover everything off. Well, one big area is in maintenance and repairs.
Ah, yes.
Maintenance and repairs.
Renos,
for example.
Yes, okay.
But even more simpler than that, just basic maintenance and repairs of the common elements. The Condominium Act simply says that the condominium corporation maintains and repairs the common elements, and that's great. That obligation is there, but who holds a board accountable when they don't carry out maintenance and repairs? And how do you ensure that the ownership who once bought into a community at a certain level, at a certain standard, it gets to maintain that standard and keep that standard throughout their ownership of their unit in the condominium? It's important that boards of directors understand that they have a responsibility to ensure that their communities are maintained and properly repaired so that their values maintain themselves, and so that owners don't see a decrease in value in their condominium units. It's becoming more pervasive in our community where we're seeing certain buildings deteriorate from year to year. It's not substantial from year to year. Sometimes it takes a little bit over a period of 10, perhaps 15 years. And for those buildings that find themselves in situations where they are today, there's almost no way out. There's almost no way out. There's no way to fix something and everything that has to get fixed without either a very heavy special assessment, for which most people can't afford, or without perhaps having some other intervention by someone who can take control of the building and bring it to a standard where it becomes at least safe.
Okay, normally when I was in construction, I'm not an engineer, but I worked in construction. There was a 25-year rule for the mechanicals and electricals and things like that. 25 years and it's for aircraft too, as a matter of fact. But nevertheless, it starts to fall apart. Now, if you bought in at point A and 25 years later the building is there, I suppose there are two alternatives. Between the year 1 and year 25, you slowly but surely you maintain the building, et cetera, instead of hitting people with one general assessment, but the money is going to be the same. I think if I'm making myself clear, you're going to have to pay.
You're going to have to pay it at some point. You might as well start saving it along the way. When you need it, it's going to be there. The Condominium Act is clear that you have to maintain a reserve fund, and a reserve fund is prepared by qualified engineers who estimate over a 30-year period what repairs are going to be required to the common elements, and they estimate a cost, given inflationary figures as well. And as long as boards follow a plan based on the reserve fund study, they should be fine. They should be. Some things, of course, will probably break a little bit earlier, some things a little bit later, but as long as you follow a plan, you should be fine. The point is, who holds boards accountable for following that plan?
Well, who does?
Well, it ought to be the owners, and the owners can, but what is a mechanism available? So one of the other areas where the Condominium Act falls short, unfortunately, is that while there are mechanisms to hold boards accountable to their standard of care and to their obligations as directors to ensure they're managing the building properly, it costs money, it takes time, excuse me. It is a situation where unless an owner can either rally others with them to really bring a final resolution to an issue where there is a vacuum, where there is a lack of accountability, you have what we call the revolving doors of directors. You have a requisition to remove directors from the board so that different people can come on, perhaps try something else. That may not be as easy as people may think because you're picking up a lot of the history left behind. And a lot of communities find themselves in revolving doors.
So what you're intimating here is that within a condominium, a large condominium, you're going to have political factions.
Absolutely.
You're going to have hates and dislikes and what has to be done and not done. But at the end of the day, if you buy into a condominium, you've got to understand, I suppose, that somewhere down the line, those maintenance fees and the assessments and so on and so forth are going to be there, and they will be there as long as you're in the building.
That's right.
And you're trading off to some degree a lifestyle against the fact that you've got to pay for it.
That's right. Owners have to understand the idea of living in a condominium, and they have to understand what it is that they are responsible for when they're living in a condominium. And by the same token, directors have to understand what their responsibilities are, and that is do things as they come along. Don't leave them. Don't try to decrease your common expenses and forgo the most important things like maintenance and repairs, like keeping the quality of the building the way it's supposed to be. And educate your owners. For those that don't understand it, for those that can't comprehend it, take the time to educate your ownership. The more people understand, the more they're willing to accept.
One of the things is that condominiums were seen as an option when house prices were rocketing up.
That's right.
They were a cheaper way by which you could get in and have home ownership or condominium ownership without a huge outlay. Mm-hmm. So what people, I suppose, didn't understand was that, yes, they could buy in at X dollars, which got them into a place. They didn't realize that somewhere down the line, they were going to have to pay substantial sums of money. On that note,
this has been an encore presentation of The Peter Silverman Show on News Talk 1010 CFRB.